Welcome to Business Recharged Podcast with your host, the Queen of Content and CEO of the Mack Institute, Dr. Philisha Mack.
Welcome back to another episode of Business Recharged Podcast. So excited to be with you guys today. And so we're going to kick off with how to recharge your mental capacity, the ultimate pivot into productivity. Have you ever been in a space where you are not feeling motivated? In fact, where you likely are lacking energy or your energy is off and you don't exactly know what to do to recharge your mindset to actually get things done? Well, today's episode, we are talking all about how to recharge your mental capacity to create the ultimate pivot into productivity. So there's likely three areas right now that you may be challenged with. One will be probably your personal life, right? So something that is affecting you personally. It could be relationships, it could be finances, it could be work, right? It could be any of those things that comprise of your personal life. Or the second thing that most people struggle with is just overall motivation, right? So maybe you have been working, but you're not getting the results. So you're really not as motivated as you could or should be in whatever area. It could be business, it could be your personal life, etc. And then the third area is just feeling a sense of lack or feeling unfulfilled. I find that anytime these three core areas are off, it really affects us, our mental status. It affects us personally, professionally, the whole nine. And so you're less inclined to want to show up because you're ultimately not feeling as if you are at the best version of yourself that you could be. So there's usually a shift in our life and ultimately our lifestyle that stems from one of these core areas. We may not recognize why or how, but somewhere along the doing and being, we experience a discomfort that is often the last thing that is addressed on our journey to pivot into positive energy that will ultimately have a positive effect on all areas of our lives. So this will be a three-part series where I shed light on the how to pivot in all three areas. So today we're going to focus on the personal, right? So the first thing I want you to do is grab a notebook and I want you to begin to write down 5 areas of your personal life that's currently not going well or as well as you think that it should go. So just number 5 areas on your notebook, paper, and just write those down. It doesn't have to be any specific order. But as you do this, I want you to know that there's likely sub areas that is located underneath these areas that also may be affecting your personal life as well. I want you to take a moment and also just write those off to the side. So this is important because we often have all these things that we're experiencing, right? Like on an everyday basis, but it's hard to sit and self-reflect on what those things actually are at the core that is bothering us for us to actually, what I like to call take accountability for so that we ultimately can pivot into our next. So, you can do this now. You could pause and write your list and then come back. But I highly want you to follow along and to do the activity as we're going through today's episode. So next, I want you to ask yourself, why are those areas causing the emotional response that you're having? Now, I want you to be very specific, right? Because, for example, if you are having a response of not feeling motivated to show up in your business, is it because you had a failed contract? Is it because you just don't feel as if you're getting the results? Is it because you don't know what to do? So you are kind of procrastinating, but you have to understand what that emotional response is attached to so that you're able to change it, right? And so I really want you to focus on the things that's in your control. So here's what's in our control. What's in our control is the actions that we are doing, right? So if we're saying that every morning we're waking up and we're telling ourselves that we're not enough, that no one wants our products, that there's not enough people that actually want to work, so you can't find people to work for you. Like, what are you feeding your mind? What are you telling yourself? And the more that you are really connected to the real, right, the easier it's going to be to pull yourself and to get ready for this pivot that we're talking about. The reason why I want to stress this is because we oftentimes lie to ourselves. We want to tell ourselves all about the roses, all about everything that's great, but it's very difficult to look in the mirror and look at yourself, look at your business, look at your situation, look at your relationships, look at your finances, and tell yourself exactly what is not going right. Because there's a lot of emotional responses that's attached to that. But the more you're able to have those honest conversations and to not personalize it within yourself, to say, oh, I am a failure because this isn't working, or, oh, I'm not good enough because this is not working this way. No, you just need to pivot. You just need to figure out what is not working, why it isn't working, and you need to move forward and pivot forward. So that is really the focus of of the work that we're doing inside of Business Recharge, and overall the focus of how I really want you to approach the series that I'm doing as well, right? So your control and what you are able to control, and the energy and effort that you're putting into that, is really how you're going to overcome the items that you've put down on that list. So for example, if you listed that you're in a toxic romantic or personal relationship, what can you do to not be in that situation? And furthermore, why are you still in a relationship that isn't serving you? So begin to unpack the why. But in doing so, it's very important not to blame yourself. I simply want you to spend this time reflecting. If you are a person who likes to journal, this is a fantastic time to pull out your journal to self-reflect as well. Next, I want you to ask yourself, what are some things that I can do to get out of my situation? I want you to be very specific in locating and naming those things. Do you need to put yourself in different circles? Do you need to network more? Do you need to find a different way to market? Do you need to build in some type of additional accountability? What do you need to do that you can control, meaning that you can do, to get yourself out of that situation? And then the next thing I want you to do is set targeted dates on getting whatever it is that you wrote down done. So if you're like, oh, I need to make sure that I'm showing up and doing more, I don't know, live videos, set a date and time, right? Once you're doing that, momentum feeds momentum. So once you get yourself from a place of just being in your head to actually taking action, that is how you begin to pivot, right? So as you're writing this stuff out, be very, very specific, but please do not beat yourself up. Don't say, oh, I'm stuck in this relationship because I'm so stupid. I didn't learn my lesson the first time. No, that's not it. Maybe there's a different lesson you needed to learn. And now that you got it, okay, good. You got it. Let's move forward, right? So think about it from that perspective, and work through focusing on getting the things done that you need to get done versus focusing on the past and what isn't working, what hasn't worked. I want you to focus on the way out. And when we think about recharging, when we think about recharging our business overall, when we think about recharging our mindset, when we think about really that ultimate pivot, you cannot do that without self-reflection. Self-reflection is a place of unease, right? Because in this space, you got to be honest, you got to be real. And at the very end of the day, no one can call you out on your ish the way that you can. So this is all about highlighting the importance of personal accountability. You may have to just tell yourself, like, listen, over the past month, like, I've just been off my game. I've just not been doing what I need to do. Like, you may have to ultimately tell yourself, like, give yourself the hard lesson, so that you can truly move forward. But that's okay. That's okay, because looking forward another week, another 2 weeks, months in the future, you're not going to be who you are or where you are. And that is ultimately how we're going to have the ultimate pivot into productivity. All right. So let me know if this was helpful. Let me know what you got out of doing this as well. And if you have any comments or questions, please please make sure that you leave them. As always, make sure that you subscribe to our podcast. Make sure that you share, and also leave us a review, because that absolutely helps us out so much. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Business Recharge Podcast. I will see you next week, same time, same place.